Well, folks, we were working on the Peterbilt, and we kind of, let's go this way. Somebody else has already been going this way, going around all the mud holes. Got called out for kind of an emergency deal. We have and I understand, you know, that's one thing about, I grew up farming, and I understand when you have limited windows in the fall to get your farming done, and if you don't get it done, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get going on until next spring, and it's a lot nicer to get your farming done in the fall if you can. So, any of that being said, 9620T, big tractor. Sounds like it's got a broke exhaust manifold or something on it, so I'm running over here. We're going to be here till dark 30 because we didn't leave the house till almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I only got probably 3 hours of daylight left, so we'll see what happens. Oh, here we go. I see it sitting out there. A little story about this tractor. So the strawberry nursery that I worked for I don't know, 10 or 11 years, they bought this brand new when I was there, a long time ago. No, not that long ago, but at the time, this was the largest tractor that, largest horsepower tractor that John Deere made as an ag tractor. I think those ones that look like the quad tracks now, I think those are bigger. They're always one-upping themselves. Somebody will build something bigger than the next manufacturer, so then the next guy will go, well, we got to do something better. So it never ends with the building bigger equipment type thing, more horsepower. Okay, so this old tractor here, once I get going here, I'll tell you a little bit more about some stories with this tractor. But I can already see the carbon on this side of the engine. Okay, kids. The wild bunch. We left the wild bunch out. Okay, so we got the little side panels there. Let's pop the hood open. This old girl. Basically, he bought this tractor used. It had a reman engine in it. He got a good deal on it because, I mean, the tracks. It's got new tracks on it. There's probably, man, those tracks are probably 20 a piece. They're probably 15 a piece, I bet. Okay, so let's go under here. Let's go take a gander at what we got going on here. Oh yeah, you can see the crack clear across. Clear across. Manifold's cracked right there. Turbo pedestal is cracked all the way down. She's a goner. So here's what we got going on though. So he's got two 9320Ts, and he's thinking of just swapping. He's got one with a wide string drawbar on it. That he needs this ripper. He's got a 9320T, the one I did the power shift on. That's got a hitch, and then this 9620T's got a hitch. So, it's cracked. Crack clear in two, all the way across. So what we got to do here, I know I told him, I said no guarantees if the manifold gaskets don't leak on it, but we need to find out what engines we do have. I'm not seeing the tag on this one anymore. I know they used to put the reman tag over here. I don't see it over there though. Okay. So this is but I don't see the HRW number that should be there, which should be on the other side. There should be an HRW number. SE, that's a reman number. SE 6125H. So I gotta look up, that's a 6125H. So we don't know if usually there's a tag with an HRW number for the engine right over here on the right side, but I am not seeing it. Let me look up this number. Before we get too carried away, I told him, I said there was 4 or 5 different options, or there was 5 options for engines on this thing, HRW numbers. They're all 12.5 liter power techs as far as I know, but 4 of the 5 took exactly the same part number for the turbo and the exhaust manifold, but the 5th one was different. So we got to figure out what we've got. All right, guys. So of course this is the oddball. That bottom right number there is the serial number, or the actual part number. The SE number is the part number for the engine. So I looked up the part number and cross-referenced it with the HRW number, and so this is the oddball, which I'm thinking it's probably a 9620, because everything between the 9020 series, the 9320, the 9420, 9520 are all the same, everything on them. The transmission is different on the 9620T. The remotes, even the SCVs are different. So there's quite a few different things, and I think it must be an engine variant too. So that being said, I still got to get it apart and see what happened. When I first walked up to this thing, something I didn't mention in the live audio there was that I noticed it was really discolored. And I'm looking at motor mounts and pointing to them right now. The motor mounts are kind of beat out of it. This engine, he bought this tractor used. A little background on this tractor. The nursery I used to work for bought it brand new when I was there. When it rolled off the low boy, the right front idler, I walked around it and looked at it when Doug, the lowboy driver, dropped it off, and I told Doug, I said, hey, you might tell the mechanic over there that this thing's got a cracked front idler. Right off the lowboy, it had a front, one of the idler was cracked, clear across from the center of the hub all the way to the outside. So they had to warranty that, and they bought a hub out, and let's see, we ran it, and then it lasted about one season with no problems. The next season, this tractor's been a lemon. The next season, it was running away with itself. And I wish I would have thought about it and I would have shown you over here. But what they did is they did an angled, kind of almost like a 45-degree angle, where their fuel came into their cylinder head, and they angled it vertically, kind of at maybe like a 45-degree angle. Well, then what they did to cross drill it to get the fuel back into the center of the head, into the rail, they cross drilled it through the intake manifold. Well, it took us quite a while to figure out what was wrong with this tractor. And we thought injectors were overfueling, because it kept running away with itself. You would shut the key off and it would go up to 2,900 RPM. You thought it was going to scatter on you. And you'd get in the cab and shut the door and duck, because you thought things were going to start coming apart. But anyways, I did a pressure test on it. The dealer came out and put 6 injectors in it, brand new injectors in it, and it did exactly the same thing. And so I finally started doing some testing myself on it, and found that I had rigged up a pressure gauge for where I could start it, shut it off, and then shut a ball valve. I put a ball valve on the inlet side of it to where I could trap the fuel in the head somehow. I don't remember exactly what I did, but I had a suspicion that the fuel was leaking off in the head somewhere and getting into the combustion chamber. Well, anyways, when they had cross drilled that, they put a soft plug right on the flange of the intake manifold, and that soft plug was gone. Because the only way I knew it, I pulled that off, because I thought I pulled the intake manifold off because I was going to pull the cylinder head, because I knew it was leaking in the head. I thought the head was cracked. I got lucky and pulled the intake manifold off and just happened to see fuel dripping out of that hole. And I looked in there, and sure as hell, I blew through it, and I said, man, that's going. Then I figured out, once I seen where the fuel come into the head at, and I took an 1/8 inch tap, and I tapped it, and I red Loctited an 1/8 inch pipe plug in there, and that solved that problem. And then, like maybe 200 or 300 hours later, the snap ring that holds a cross shaft in on the steering gear mechanism in the back, where the steering motor is for the differential steering, the side load on it, because they were turning so hard with it, the side load on that shaft, it shoved the snap ring, and the material in the housing, it just shoved the snap ring, actually broke the metal that holds the snap ring in, the retainer part of it. So then the bearing came out and slid out in the shaft, and then that pinion gear for the cross shaft bounced up and down on that huge differential steering gear, and I ended up having the track frames and the whole thing out. I had the whole rear end apart in that thing. That steering gear, just that one gear, was $14,000, and it was actually out of warranty by then, year-wise. It wasn't out hour-wise, but year-wise. Yeah, and that wasn't all. Little side story. When we had the track frames, okay, had two kids that worked with me at that nursery as mechanics. Kyle and the other kid's name was Talon, and that thing had a Category 4 hitch on it, big hitch. I mean, that's the biggest hitch you can buy on an ag tractor. It's a great big heavy hitch. And I told them we were harvesting strawberry plants, and I told Kyle and Talon, I said, pull that hitch off of there, because we got to get the track frame and the rear end out of it. And so I got called out in the field to go work on something. We had two-way radios in our service trucks, and somebody called for me wanting to come out and get something going in the field. And I told them, I said, before I left and walked out of there, I said, make sure you jump in that tractor and lower that hitch all the way down before you pull them hydraulic lines off, or it could get you. I mean, you don't want to be standing somewhere where that hitch falls down. It'll kill you. Well, I did what I had to do out in the field, and I come back, and Kyle was still in the shop there, and I asked Kyle, I said, where in the hell? Well, I walked in there through you had to walk in through an office and into the main shop. And I walked in, and that shop was kind of like that big shop that I'm in right now, but even the ceiling was probably even a little taller than the one that I'm currently in McDowell. It probably was a good 45-foot ceiling. Well, there was hydraulic fluid dripping off all the I-beams and the ceiling and the insulation clear up on top there. And as I'm seeing the mess everywhere, and I'm looking up and seeing the oil dripping on my head, I said, what in the hell did you guys do? And Kyle says he had that hitch up in the air and just winged that line off there. And, you got hydraulic pressure on the bottom side of the piston on each big cylinder, holding a big, probably a 700-800 pound hitch up. And as soon as he took that line off, here it comes. And he got really lucky that he wasn't standing somewhere where he got hurt real bad, or had his leg in there somewhere. It would have took his leg off. I mean, so I asked him, I said, well, is he okay? And he says, yeah, he's up at the house taking a shower. He took a bath in hydraulic fluid. And that's the other thing. I mean, that's another thing that can get you, that high pressure oil coming out of there and hit you in the eyes or something. I mean, yeah, it's not good. But this tractor, when I saw you guys, if you've watched I know there's a lot of guys that have been loyal to this channel for a lot of years now, for 2 or 3 years since I started doing this, and you guys saw the 9320Ts that I've worked on, that this guy has. He's got two 9320Ts and this 9620T. And anyway, he bought this 9620T, and I was out working on something else, and I saw that 9620T, and I walked over to it, and I knew what tractor that was. I think this is the only 9620T in the Klamath Basin, and I knew it was the one that we used to have. And I saw the new steering gear setup, top cover on the back, and I said, yeah, I've worked on this tractor. And Mike, the owner, he walks up there, and I says, did you buy this, or are you renting it? And he goes, I bought it. Everything on it's new. And I said, well, everything on it's new for a reason. It's a lemon. And he didn't like that very much, but I was explaining to him that I started telling him all the stories and I'm not even telling you half of the stuff. I mean, that was what happened on this tractor. Then the nursery that I worked for got so sick of dumping money into it that they they traded it off for, well, that's when they started getting bigger, and they bought two 9430Ts. And then we got one good one out of that batch and one bad one. I mean, we were having a hell of a time there for a while. And I like John Deere's, but we had some lemons there for a while. We had some really good 8000 series tractors we never had any problems with. We had one of the 9430Ts that had we put like 300 hours on it, and the crank dampener slid clear back and rubbed a hole in the front timing cover because the thrust bearings, they fell out, and they were laying in the oil pan when I pulled the oil pan off. And the dealer was really busy and we needed the tractor. I ended up fixing it and putting a new front cover on it so we could use it. But anyways, so he's only had this tractor for a season and he's put less than 1,000 hours. And this had a reman new engine in it from Deere. The dealer did it. So this he's put less than 1,000 hours on it, and he was telling me that, about how hot the hood was. Well, I told him, I said, yeah, I'm pointing to the motor mounts, but I'm looking at that going, this isn't making sense. And this is when I figured out we've got an overfueling problem, looking at the discoloration on the exhaust manifold. Something's putting too much fuel in this thing, and it's creating a lot of heat. And it looks like somebody took a rosebud to that exhaust manifold, and it's cracked in so many places that there's really no other explanation. It's just getting too hot. Look at the discoloration on it. And then I had a hard time getting the bolts out too because it's warped. We got to get the feed line off. Take it off down here. And then the drain line, let's just take the whole feed line off. We'll have to cap it where it goes in the block. Should have brought my little stool with me, but I don't have it. It's at the house. So that should just be a number 8 JIC cap, is what I'm thinking there. So that's what that is. We can't even reuse the turbo because it's cracked on the mounting flange down there. It's pretty much ruined both of them. Like I was telling you guys, if you ever want to find the weak link in your equipment, tractor, start ripping with it. Ripping and plowing's not as hard on them, but the ripping's what really gets them. Oh, what am I doing here? It's number 6, isn't it? And I don't think I've got any number 6s. But I do have a brand new... Oh, my pistol's in here. Everybody be quiet. I don't keep it in the cab, so if I get pulled over and they want to see the pistol, they can see it. But and I've always kept a gun in there, but I'm sure somebody's going to report me. That's okay. Better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So that's kind of the way I look at it. All right, let me take it off up there, top. That much means we got to start climbing here. Let's see if I can fall on my butt trying to hold on to the camera with one hand and climb up here with the other. I'm gonna get this charge here. Guess the whole thing's turning. Never fails, does it? What is that? 5/8 down there. I just seen I'll show you when I get this thing off. There's a huge crack over here that I didn't see. I've never seen one this bad. I mean, it's just cracked and broke all over the place. Well, I guess I can't be too hard on those guys. I've made mistakes myself before too. I'm I'm not even going to worry about capping this turbo because it's junk anyway, so maybe I'll cap it when I throw it on the bench. I mean, they're not going to take it back for a core. It's pretty much ruined. It's pretty much scrap iron. I mean, you could save the impeller in it, but pretty much everything on the other side of it, it's done for. Leave that right there for now. Get that off. Gonna get this off. And then we'll just unbolt the whole manifold as an assembly, and I'll probably swing that crane over here and see if I can get a hold of it and just pull the whole thing off. Yeah, the more and more I look at this thing, the more and more I know that there's an overfueling problem. I've had some guys that have chipped their pickups and left the exhaust manifolds. You know, one thing is they chipped them and pulled stock trailers with them. I had one in a Dodge, a 2014 Dodge, and he didn't put a pyrometer on it, and he got it so hot because he was putting so much fuel in there that he said, I got an exhaust leak. Well, it had broke like half of the manifold bolts were gone, and the rest of them I couldn't get them out because it had warped it and pulled on it so hard that you had to break the rest of the bolts off to get it out. And I ended up drilling almost every single bolt in that head out to get it right again. And I said, you got to put a pyrometer on this thing, or detune it, or take your foot out of it. You know, I mean, you can't monitor your temperature on your exhaust. So, and that's another thing here. That's what's going on. When I seen the discoloration on the manifold, but here's what I can't believe is that somebody would put a new engine like that and put them old rotted out motor mounts back in there. I mean, why wouldn't you change those motor mounts while you're there? That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But anyway, another thing that we've got going on here is he said that his operator had told him it's using oil, and I've got a feeling, see, I haven't ran this thing yet. I don't want to run it the way it is. I don't really know what we're going to do. I got a feeling this is going to get thrown back in the dealer's lap, and I'm probably out of it from here because he called and he actually still has warranty on the engine, and he did not know that. So I said, well, let him warranty it. I mean, he said that his operator said it was using oil, and I said, well, I got a feeling for one thing, you're putting so much fuel in there, you either probably got washed down cylinders, or you got a piston scuffing, or I mean, because once I got the manifold off, you could shine your flashlight in there, and those stems on those valves, where the valve stem goes up into the guide, they were just crystal white. They'd been getting so hot. So he's probably more than likely going to wind up getting another new engine out of it. And I told him that if you get another reman engine, you tell him that you want new injectors. You don't want reman junky injectors. You get brand new injectors in your reman engine. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, these are just about 500 horse here. 9620Ts were. Now we can plug that hole. Maybe this one. Did I get my size right? Holy cow, I did. That doesn't hardly ever happens. You get them both right the first try. You know that ain't that heavy. There's no sense in getting a crane out for that. Let me get the impact out and zip those loose. And I'll have to climb up there though to make sure it happens. Get the old air impact wrench out. Oh, pups. Puppies. This thing's gonna screw up my little plan to go to Reno. What I have a feeling's going to happen here. If it's warped a little bit. Well, I gotta get some air built up here, guys. I think he's got an overfueling problem or something. As hot as everything looks like it got here, this thing got hot. Really hot. Why? Just look at the discoloration on this thing. It's like somebody took a rosebud to the whole thing. Now let's see if I can get them out without breaking them, because the manifold's warped. It got so hot. As soon as I got them loose, I mean, now the holes aren't lined up. That's why they're coming out so hard. Yeah, there's something going on with the engine. Got an injector overfueling or something. Pretty screwed up. Typical John Deere reman engine. Garbage. That's why I rebuild them myself right here. They probably put reman injectors in it, and one of them's hung open. See how wet this cylinder? Look how wet that is right there. Let's look at things a little closer here. So I unplug my leaking air hose and I need to get another hose. Look how hot this thing got. Then it cracked it on the hot housing right around where the impeller is. It's over fueling or something. But it cracked it all the way around, all the way down here, all the way to here. It's cracked here. It's cracked here. No, motor mounts didn't do that. It's getting so hot. It's cracked here. What is going on with this gal, huh? Got some overfueling issues or something going on here. Let's look at our holes here. There's kind of some wet looking stuff on that cylinder. There's some wet looking stuff on that cylinder. This cylinder's wet. This cylinder's wet. This cylinder's wet. This one's wet. And this one's wet. But what are they wet with? Are they wet with fuel or is that oil? Kind of hard to tell. The only one that's dry is number 6. That's the only one that seems to be burning correctly. Look how those valves are white. I mean, they've gotten so damn hot. Be lucky if the engine don't blow up on him. See if I can smell. Well, guys, I got to get a hold of the owner and see what he wants to do. I'd be calling the dealer on this reman engine to see if there's still any warranty on it. I'd either be telling them to get me another engine, or they can pay the bill to make me make this one right. I got a feeling what we're going to have to do is probably put a set of brand new injectors in it and run it and see what happens. But there's no sense in fixing this the way it is. I mean, it's definitely gotten so hot. Look at the white. Man, that thing has gotten hot. Look how this white crystallized looking stuff in here. It's gotten so damn hot. I bet you if you took this off and laid the manifold down on a flat piece of plate, oh, you can tell. Yeah, it's warped. Got so damn hot. Well, now we got to figure out why. It's obviously got, and I'm just willing to bet John Deere, you know, SE, it's a reman engine. They stuck reman injectors in it. And if you guys know anything about John Deere reman injectors, I think they farm them out to the cheapest bidder, and whoever does them. I've had the reman injectors last 10 hours pop a tip off, blow a hole right through a piston. So that was my learning lesson on John Deere reman injectors, and I'll never use them ever again. And I've heard so many horrid stories about them. If you're going to do an engine end framer rebuild on a John Deere engine, you use new parts, brand new. And if they don't offer brand new injectors for them anymore, then you need to send them to Bosch or somebody, whoever makes them for John Deere, and let them do them. The manufacturer, I don't know what I have Oregon Fuel Injection do them. They do a good, outstanding job. At some of these other injection shops, they don't do a very good job, and it can really cost you. So anyway, what a mess.